right, guys, so I've been doing some last minute finishing touches, just a lot of detail work. I really love a baby to have a lot of detail. The more detail, the more the baby will look so lifelike. So what I've been doing here is I actually went into the brown. I've never tried this one in my box set that I got of the paints. It's called the darkest brown. I thought that would look really great into the rib cage. And if you notice, this side is darker than this side where I did in the rib cage. This one is. I'm sponging that on, and then I just went down in a line right here with it as well, just to really give more character and definition with the brown instead of the red. And then I did his belly button with it to look like the umbilical cord. Again, another great detail. Since he is a micro preemie, he would definitely still have his umbilical cord. So I thought just right in the center, if I did that, then I'm going to go around and do a little bit more red, but keep that brown in the center like that, so that you know, it looks like the umbilical cord. And then you can see I've got more flesh tone in the forehead here. Did a little bit more in here, a little bit more on the cheeks, a little bit more on the chin. Just, you know, going over a little bit more and a little bit more on the lips. Now the lips I did with the natural blush color. I did go over with that and mixed it with the, you know, Part A 50/50. I'll write it right there on the screen. That's what I did for the lips. And the blushing, I did some more blushing and more detail work on him. And then, of course, the belly button and in the rib cage was a 50/50 mix with the F230, and I'll write it right down below for you. And this 50/50 mix again. And this one just came in a container like this, so I just used, I only needed a little bit, so I just pulled a little bit from the brush onto the palette and then mixed it 50/50. So I can get rid of this stuff now, set it away from here. And I'm just going to finish doing up those detail work. I do have the sponge here, so I'm kind of painting it on in the rib cage and then just doing it both with the paint and with the brush and with the sponge. So I'm going to get going on that. We'll draw in for you here. And I did do a little bit more around his nipples just to give it a little bit more definition again after painting him so many coats of the red to give him that beautiful red. Again, you're not getting the true color. I hope I get that in photos. I'm just really hoping so you can see the true color. But he's gorgeous. Even right here, he looks gorgeous in this video. But he is so much more of the red tone. And like I said, I do know from firsthand what babies look like because my son was a preemie. He wasn't micro preemie, but he was a preemie, and he was so red. Everybody kept saying he looks like a little Indian. He had the most beautiful color, and that's what my goal was for this baby. All right, so we're going to draw in a little bit more. All right, and we're going to go ahead and take this darkest brown there, and I'm just going to be painting in the rib cage, just, you know, the rib cage part, the lines. Now you're saying, whoa, that is dark. Nope, we're going to sponge it. Don't worry. So I'm just going to go into each one here, and then we're going to use the sponge and bring it down with the sponge. But it just really helped to give more definition since he was a red. Even though I was doing that definition, it was more with the brown to get that look, you know, to get that look of what I was shooting for. So it would be a little bit more defined, you know, than with that red. Now, the red did define it, as you see the difference in the two, but this one was just better. So now we're going to use the sponge and just go down with it like that, just to bring it down. And I wanted to try it first because if I didn't like it, I could have wiped it off and then I wasn't even going to show it in the video, but I did like it. So we're going to go ahead and do it like this for you guys. And don't worry if you get in between and on the parts of the rib cage that you don't want it. What's nice about these paints is until they're dry, you can work with them. So now I can just go around with the other side of the sponge and get off whatever I don't need. See, like in between here, I can go in between and get that off because I don't want it on there. I just want it in the rib cage itself, you know. So, and then you could just, you know, really pat it down and really get it nice. And I'm going to also use the sponge itself to get in there really good, you know, sponging as well as not just with the brush, but sponging with the sponge. So I'm going to use the sponge again, and now I'm going to put some on the sponge and go in between each one again, like that. And don't worry, like I said, it all can come off before this baby is cured. So I'm just going to go like this, inside like that, and that's why I'm using this particular sponge, this shape, because I like that I can then get inside like this, small like that, and get it out of the areas like that, because I don't want it in those areas. I just want it right in the rib cage itself, and then any that's coming down here, I can take off the baby. You know, that's what I like. It's just awesome. Or you could use a brush, a little bit of the paint thinner. Because like I said, until he is fully cured, you can fix these paints over and over and over. You know, and after it's dried, then you can't anymore. But if you see what I'm talking about, how it's getting more definition now, I hope you were able to see that and notice that. So I'm going to do a little bit more going down this side because I already did the other side. So we're just going to do this and then pat it. And I'll turn it over now and pat the other side just so we get enough definition in there. And yeah, I just loved it. I just love that it did give it more definition, being a totally different color from the red, that it was just making those rib cages, you know, stand out more and make it look more lifelike, you know. So, and anything that I need to fix, like I said, I'll just go over and fix and make sure I look for any spots on this baby so that we don't have any mishaps, you know. We don't want any mishaps. And if you get any, well, it's a little birthmark then, right? That's what we'll call it. And I've noticed that with my baby Octavia as I'm inspecting her more, as I'm painting her. And you guys will get videos on the process of a baby that's peeled. You'll see that she actually had more flaws than I knew. But the saying is, imperfection makes perfection. Nobody is perfect. Their bodies are not perfect. You're going to have imperfections, and that's what gives more character to the baby. So yeah, I really like that. I'm going to stop right there. Hopefully you got to see the difference, how it did change and make it more by doing that. I do see some here I need to pat off. So just get rid of that. So that's what I love, like I said, about these paints, is they can just be fixed and fixed and fixed. And that's just part of his silicone. He's got certain parts of his silicone that picks up more than, you know, others. And so I'm not too worried about it. Where is my little tweezers? Everything is always here. And oh, they're there. I always make sure when I'm doing this that I got everything before I start, because sometimes I move these little tweezers and can't find them. So yeah, if there's just little parts that you can just get rid of, just go ahead and wipe it off. And if it's something that you notice that's not coming off, well, then it's a little birthmark. That's what it's going to be called. But like I said, I did go around. Now I will wipe off this brush, and I'm going to go around just to show you what I'm talking about around the belly button. And I'm using the blush tone color, and I've got a little bit left here. I'm not going to put any more out, but I'm just going to go around this nipple a little bit because I did notice that I kind of wiped it when I was doing that sponging, because I want this to have a little bit more character just in the nipple part itself, so it's a little bit more defined. And then let me go out a little bit for you, because I'm going to show you the belly button. I'm going to go around now since I got the dark in there, and I'm just going to go around the outside of the belly button now, because you really do want that part to be red, because I remember with my son, it was really red there. You know, you had to put cream on it. Anybody that's had a baby knows that it is pretty red around that area of their belly button where the umbilical cord is, you know, and you just got to keep cream and stuff on it and until it falls off. And actually, I was able to save my son's. I have his put away. Some people might think that's weird. It just looks like a little raisin is all it looks like to me. But I was able to save that. So I do have it put away in a little box for him, in a little baggie, in a box. It never did, like, you know, decay or anything, because it just, the reason it you know, falls off is because it pretty much dies and falls off, and that's why it looks like a raisin. So I was able to save him, so save that for him. So I thought that was pretty cool. And now I am going to go with the brown just a little bit more, again, just to put a little bit more in the center, just to really make that look like a an umbilical cord, you know. I really thought that would give it character since he is so young. There's no way his umbilical cord would be gone yet. So I really like that. That gave it a lot of character too. So I think that we are pretty much done with this baby, other than now we have to do the silicone finish, which is the 110 and the Part A 50-50 mix. I'll just write it right there on the screen. We're going to paint the whole baby, and you want to do a very light coat of it. And I mean a very light coat, you guys, because I have had a mishap with this one. When I did him, I ended up doing a little bit more detailing to him, so I have to, again, silicone him again at the end. But I did have a little mishap, but I used it to my benefit. It looked like he had a little bit of, like, what happened is it was a chemical reaction, so he had these chunks of white. You got to make sure you use a nice, soft puff brush. You want to make sure that you pour the matte powder out on a plate and break it up because it is kind of chunky. Break it up first. You don't want to use too much of the powder or you don't want to use too little. So you'll see as I do it. But yeah, there was a mishap because he just had maybe the coat of paint underneath him wasn't completely dry since I was using a hair dryer. Now I'm drying him, curing him in the bucket. It just dries better. But it could have been that, and the point of the silicone that I used might have been a little bit too thick of a coat. It kind of looked a little thick to me. So when you put it on, go very light with that coat and even take some of it off when you're done. And I'll show you that as I'm doing the video. You're going to be wiping some of it away. And then you can even use your hands with the gloves on to even take more away because you don't want that chemical reaction. But I used it to my benefit because it just looked like he had a little bit of dry, patchy skin. I was able to wash it off. Thank God I was able to wash it off. I thought he was going to be ruined. But again, thank God it came off enough. And it just looked like he had a little bit of dry, patchy skin. And I do remember my son had that. My mom said that my brother, one of my brothers, had that patchy skin. So babies do get that, especially a baby that's sitting in a NICU, you know, like in one of those incubators or whatever. It's got the light on them, so it will dry their skin out. So I kind of used it to my benefit. That's what you got to do. You got to have fun with the art. You know, you got to make things up in your head saying, well, it looks like dry, patchy skin. But since doing a little bit more coats on him, he doesn't really have that now. I won't know until after I do that last coat and do it again and then just baby powder him after I've washed him to see if it's going to do it again, and I'll show you guys. But if it doesn't, then great. But if it does, hey, I'm going to run with that one. It's going to be dry, patchy skin. That's all I'm going to, you know, use it for. And that's what my mom was saying when she last seen it before I did these other touches and did him another coat of the red. I just wanted him a little bit darker and just saw a few missed areas that I wanted to fix after he was done. So I got all that done. He's done and ready for that top coat. Then when that is done and the powder finish is done for the 4 hours, then you're going to wash those babies. And then I will have to then go back with the silicone and go through the eyes again, around the nose area, down the little mouth here, inside the mouth, of course, to shine that up, and on the lips to shine it up, because it's important for those areas to be shiny. Of course, a mouth would always be wet inside. And then the little fingertips, I'm just going to give them that little red tone. There's a little bit on there now, but I'm going to do a little bit more coat on that and the toes, and then shine that up with the silicone itself too, so that the baby has some shiny parts, because the rest will be matte finished. But all right, we're going to just let him dry up. I'm going to put him in the bucket, let him dry up, and then we'll go on to that step. I'll be back before you know it. Okay, you guys, we're getting to the last steps of little Abel. We're going to do one more last layering color, which is the layering light. And it's like a skin tone color. And of course, again, 50-50 with the part A. You mix the two. I've got it mixed right here on the little palette thing I made. And I'm just going to use a makeup sponge. And we're just going to go all over him with this. And then the last step, well, you know, one to the last is going to be the silicone finish. You know, the one I showed you, the 110, and then the part A, where it's an actual silicone finish just to seal all of this in. So right now I'm just going to do an all over, just, you know, layering color with this one, just because it'll tone things down just a little bit. Not that it really needs to, but I just want to blend these colors. So, you know, when you do it on and you just do it all over, it's just going to help just, you know, just blend the colors really nice. And it's just what I feel is going to be a great step, this, you know, last step or whatever, just to really just, you know, kind of just blend everything together, you know. On here, of course, he looks a little darker, more brown when he's more red. But I will show you guys that, like I said, in photos. I keep mentioning that a lot. But in case you're watching like this video and didn't see the other ones, he is not a tan baby. He is definitely a baby that is more red. And that's what they're supposed to look like when they're in that gestational stage of 27 weeks. He's a very preemie baby. So that's what we're doing here, is just giving him one more last layering color on the front. We will do the back after it dries. After a couple hours, I actually am going to let him just dry and, you know, in the bin. And then I will do his back. I won't show that part because you guys don't need to see both front and back. I will be doing both front and back, though. And then I am going to do that last step of the silicone itself to seal him. And then we will do the finishing powder, the matte powder, which goes right over him while he's wet with the silicone. And then he dries for 4 hours. And then you want to wash the baby then. Give it a good wash to wash off the top layer of that matte powder. And then I'm going to shine things up a little bit, which will be the nail beds. And I will be doing a little bit of a color on there. There is a slight color on the nail beds. I've already kind of done one, but I'm going to do one more at the very end, and then give him the shine coat over it after, he's been matted, because they matte first, and then, of course, you got to shine up some areas. So, hang on one second. There we go. All right, so I just got the legs left. Just going to do his legs down his feet here. So I'm going to finish up here, you guys. Let him dry, and then we'll go on to the next step. All right, guys, we're getting close to the end here, and look at how gorgeous baby Abel is. He just looks so beautiful. I love all the definition that I did to this baby. I am so pleased on how he turned out. And this step here is the silicone step, where we're going to do a clear base all over him, and it's actually silicone, which is going to seal all of the paint in really well, even though the paints that I work with are silicone paints. It's just that this last step really gives it a good seal so that you shouldn't have any problems with peeling, because a lot of babies peel. Just like you guys will see when I start the videos with Octavia, she had a lot of peeling. So this company that I ordered from, Fuse FX, I wrote it right there on the front there for you. They said that they were unsure why the baby would have peeled, and they just said maybe it wasn't cleaned good, maybe she wasn't sealed good. So it is good to do the last seal coat, which is the step you do, and then you matte powder the baby so the baby doesn't look shiny. You could do it at this step right here, because the baby is very sticky and would take the powder. And I think that's how a lot of people do them, but now they are doing it where they're doing that step of silicone on the baby. So it's just a clear base of silicone, and I'll show them on the screen here when I show you guys. But that's going to be the step. And then, like I said, it has to be super thin, though. If you do too thick, you will have, problems with it. You got to make sure that you do it super, super thin. And then the powder finish also has to be nice and thin and fine, how you put it on with a nice soft puff brush. And so we'll go over all that. But we're going to go ahead and do the seal coat on him, which is the 110 clear. And then, of course, the part A again. And it's 50-50 parts. I wrote it right there on the screen. I'm going to use a fan brush. And then when I'm done with him, I am going to use a paper towel as I go over more and pull some of it off. And, keep brushing it off in there and keep brushing him off. And then I'm also going to take my gloves, which make sure you understand that you need to use a non-latex glove. That's so important. You cannot touch these babies with latex or they won't even paint. So make sure you use a non-latex glove, and I wrote it right there on the screen for you. But yeah, I'm going to also use my hands to go all over him at the end before I do the powder on him, the matte powder. And then I'll just take the gloves off and then powder him up. All right, so let's get it laid out. And like I said, it's 50-50 parts. And you don't want to do too much because, like I said, you don't need a lot. So let's just do a certain amount because we can always do more. So less is better right now. Just put so much out so you don't waste any paint. And if you need more, you can always add more. And that's what I'm learning as I'm going along, that some of the time I was wasting some of the paint. And you don't want to waste them because they're very expensive. So just be careful. So let's do 50-50 parts here. A little tiny bit more. All right. And then seal that up and close it. And then we're going to go ahead and take that toothpick again and mix these two together. And they're both just clear, so make sure you get a good mix with this because you can't tell when you're mixing them, with them both being clear. So just make sure you get a good mix with it, that they mix well together. And like I said, you can always get more, but you don't need a lot. This goes a long ways, this step right now. And this is the most important. All the steps are important, but this is a very important step to make sure you don't do too much. So we're going to go ahead and take the fan brush and we'll start with his face. And like I said, very, very thin coat because, bad things can happen. You can have a chemical reaction, which I slightly did with him when, I first decided to do more steps with him and add a little bit more definition to him. So I had already powdered him. And I don't know if I explained to you in one of the videos, I might have already said it, that I had a chemical reaction with this. I had done too much of the silicone on him. Now, I didn't even do that much, but it must have been too much because when I put the stuff on. Plus, I use too hard of a brush. You really want a soft powder brush. And just, understand that all these steps are so important. Otherwise, you can have what I had, that chemical reaction where the powder kind of got clunky. And I immediately tried to wash him and stuff, and I got most of it off. But to me, I was just going to use it and run with it as a baby with some chipping and peeling. And not peeling, I'm sorry, with a baby that would have dry skin. I was thinking of Octavia. But a baby that would have dry skin, and they do, especially this young. My son did have the dry skin when he was born. And the doctor said, no need to worry. I got to get my tweezers here. I see a little piece here. The doctor said that's normal for babies to, get that on them. And I do remember my mom telling me that my brother Robbie also had dry skin. So, babies can get that. They can get dry skin. So I thought, well, I'll just use it to my advantage, and he'll have a little bit of dry skin. But because I went over and did more paints now on him, I think I'm not going to have that problem. But we'll just have to see what happens. So to see if... And I didn't notice it till after I had powdered him with baby powder. Because remember, this powder system that I'm going to do, once it's on him for 4 hours, he sits for 4 hours and dries. And then you wash him, you wash it off. It's a jelly, not an actual powder. There is an actual powder you can get for these babies. And I'll just put it right here on the screen, the name of it. That actually is what you can powder the babies with, and that stays on the babies. I guess until you wash them, I'm not sure. I got to look more into that. But this one here was designed just to mat the baby. That's what it was designed for. And I thought you could use it afterwards to even powder them. No, it's just to mat them. That's why it needs to be washed off. And, it's not going to be used as a baby powder. Then I just powdered him with baby powder because he was still a little bit tacky feeling. And it might have been because of the reaction I had with him. I don't know, but he was kind of, just rough feeling. And so I powdered him, and then he felt really good. But yeah, so it's not a baby powder. This stuff that you're putting on is not used as a baby powder. And I thought it was. I guess it's just for their step to mat the babies, because obviously you see these babies get really shiny, and, you want a lifelike baby here, and you don't, want a baby that's shiny, because that wouldn't be very lifelike. So yeah, it's not used for that. So that's just for this step here. So just remember that, you guys, that it is not a powder finish, because I know you may have watched videos and you've seen that these people are using this really, this powder, and they're talking about it being such a good powder and this and that, and it makes the babies so soft. It is not the same powder, and I had to learn my lesson with that one, because I thought that, but the lady on the phone I was talking to her said, oh no, it's like a jelly finish. It makes, it is a powder, but it is like jelly-like. So she said you would never use it as a baby powder. You would just use baby powder, afterwards or whatever to powder them up, or the powder that you can get, that you can buy for these babies that make them really soft. And it's supposed to last longer. It's quite expensive, but it is definitely better than the baby powder because it lasts longer. And like I said, I have to look into, I didn't look into the part if once they get a bath and stuff, if it comes off and then you got to redo it. I'm not sure. But anyways, this is going to powder this baby completely. And then he's going to need to be shined up around the eyes and the nose inside, a little bit coming down in this area here of his lip, under the nose and above the lip. And then, of course, the lips, and then inside the lips, it's going to, in the mouth, it's going to need to be silicone too. Siliconed. So we're going to make it shiny. So I'm also doing it inside of his mouth right now to seal that too. But I'm going to be doing it again. And then, of course, his fingertips, and then I'm going to do a little bit around his belly button, so that will emphasize the belly button as well. All right, so we got that on. So now what I'm going to do is go over him again with this fan brush, and now I'm going to start using this, the paper towel, and even go kind of like this with it to get a lot of this off. Again, you want to be so careful with this step because too much will definitely, you'll have a reaction with the powdering then. And just be careful with the powdering when you put the powder on. You want to be careful with that too, and I'm going to show you that as I lay it out, what I'm talking about, how you want to break it up first because it's kind of chunky inside the container, so you want to lay it out on a plate, and then you want to have a nice soft powder brush because my first brush was a little bit hard. And when I was thinking that as I was doing it, I thought this brush appears to be a little bit hard. I don't know if I should use this brush, but I was the only one I had at the time. And so I thought, well, that's the one I went and bought. I didn't realize it was so hard and all of that. So yeah, I think it was just all in all too much of the silicone on this baby, and then also the brush I used. It was just not the right brush. So yeah, just be careful, you guys. Just make sure you do the steps right so you don't have to have the same reaction I had happen. But thank God I was able to fix this baby. I am so happy I could fix him because he turned out so good, and I was just so bummed out. I'm like, whoa, my gosh, I don't know what to do. Am I supposed to throw him away? Because I didn't even know I could get it off. I kept washing him for like an hour. And I did end up getting most of it off, but some of it was left behind. And I just had to go with that, you know. I thought, well, I'm just going to go with this, and we'll see what happens after I powder him again. And I was scared, but I knew what had happened. And so I thought, I'm just going to risk it, and not much I can do, you know. I don't want to just throw him in the garbage, so let's hope I can fix him. And I was able to, but like it looked like he had dry, flaky skin. And so I was just going to use that to my advantage. And not sure if that's what's going to happen here after I powder him, but you know, hey, let's hope it doesn't happen and hope he's good. But again, it'll just be a baby that's got a little bit of, you know, a little bit of dry skin, but it wasn't so noticeable unless you got up really close to him. All right, now I'm going to go into the step of using my hands with this glove now, just to get even more off. And I'm just going to touch him everywhere. So, you know, I can get a lot of it off even with my hands. And make sure you get up under the neck, because that's important that he got a base up on the neck too. And I hope I did do a good job of that. I hope I got him the powder up under the neck, because I just thought of that. I don't think I got any up under the neck. So let me redo the neck here, because that's important. I want him to be sealed everywhere, but I also want him to take the, you know, the powder properly there. So, all right. That was just a tiny little bit, so I really don't have to wipe too much off. Like I said, I'll use my fingers. But yeah, just tap him everywhere with your hands now. And just make sure the hands, you know, the gloves were clean. Make sure he doesn't have anything on him. If you see any little pieces, pick them off with the tweezers. So, like that. All right, we're going to go on to the next step of the powdering now. So I'm just going to shut it off quick while I set everything up. I'll be right back.